I'm Alexis. I'm an artist. I make mainly installation with sound, lights and motors, like it's mainly kinetic installation.
My name's Peter Nelson. I am also a visual artist, an old friend of Alexis and Andrew, the other artist who's not here. We all know each other for quite some time. I originally trained as a painter, and now I work mainly 3D graphics and some computer game programming. The project we're talking about and introducing today, the project is called Autosave Redoubt. It's a recreation of a historic site that's here in Hong Kong. It's a series of bunkers and tunnels that were built by the British just before World War II. And they're still there today, covered in jungle. And we have rebuilt and recreated all of this using the computer game Counter-Strike as sort of like our artistic medium. So in this exhibition we have two rooms, this one and the one next door. In each room we have a computer, sort of specialist esports computer game, and each room plays against each other. But they are running through a very accurate recreation of these tunnels, and they are playing against each other, but at the same time they are listening to a lot of stories from people who were living in Hong Kong during the Second World War. They are listening to music from the period from America, the UK, Hong Kong and Japan. And yeah, they are sort of experiencing how, I guess, two artists take a computer game and try to use it as an artistic medium.
So from my part, I met Peter a few years ago in Taiwan. It's quite a long time.
That's awesome.
Sweet. I met Peter a few years ago in Taiwan. He was in residency and I was based at this location at this moment. And later we met by chance in Australia. I got exhibition here. And
before?
And
we had an exhibition together in Chongqing, China.
By pure coincidence.
By coincidence.
We just ran that a few days before we start. And Peter told me about this project he got with a friend. I didn't think this friend at this moment. He wanted to make something with Counter-Strike editor. And then I went to Shanghai and I got to Hong Kong just for renew visa. And Peter and his friend was based here, and we started to discuss about that, and they're looking for some help with Hammer editor, which is a software to make the map in Counter-Strike. And Peter asked me if I knew someone could help them, and we started to discuss, and I started to meet Andrew, and he's a very nice guy, and we started to feel quite well together. And I proposed to make this project with them.
So earlier on, I had just moved to Hong Kong, and after about 6 months, I met Andrew. So he introduced me to the project, and then I guess another 6 months later is when Alexis comes in. And then, yeah, we worked together really from many different cities. For a long time, Andrew and I are in Hong Kong, Alexis is in Shanghai, so we talk on our phones a lot, almost every day, solving different problems. Recently, Alexis has been in Paris, I've been in Copenhagen, Andrew is here, still every day we're on the phone, on the computer, sort of finishing and recreating. But it's very nice, like the three of us sort of split our jobs quite evenly. Andrew particularly with historical research is also part of his background. Alexis really solves a lot of the very core problems for how to build and how to use this artistic medium. And then I guess I'm somewhere in between, like I do some stuff in Hammer with the sound and 3D modeling and all these things, and then I guess a lot with Andrew, organising things in Hong Kong. But yeah, so we've we're quite lucky to have 3 people who can handle a project that is this demanding. It takes a very long time. And yeah, we trust each other. It's very good. If we say, okay, Andrew, you have to do this, tomorrow it's finished, it's good. He's done it. And yeah, it works really nice.
And so it was a good way to learn how to communicate very precisely and as quick as possible. That means we can't spend time about arguing with something. It was a too big project. Even to try to get some ego war. As Peter said, we really need to trust for every point. Recently, for example, Peter was in Copenhagen and I was in Paris, so Andrew do a lot of things here just to prepare everything, all the stuff, and because we arrived recently, and he make an amazing job with that, and we can, yeah, all this project I think was not possible if one of us was not here.
Mm-hmm.
So on the creative process on my side, something very important, it was because my grandmother was archivist for the Navy, and she got a real interest and I can say love about military architecture on the 17th and 18th century in France. So when I started the project and I was invited, for me it was very important to be as accurate as possible with the tools we have. We got very good data about the wall architecture and the topology of the terrain, but Hammer, the Counter-Strike editor, don't allow us to use this data as it is. So we need to find a way to get this accurate data, bend it for Hammer, and then adapt it to keep an accurate version in Counter-Strike from this reality. We have this sort of fun with that because there was a lot of problem. It was not about to convert numbers to a lot of numbers or just to transform one array to another array. It was about to get idea about we got this data and it's fits the reality because it's really research data, and we got this editor where we can't apply a reality. Very simple example, on reality you can walk on a very narrow corridor. In Counter-Strike it's impossible. So how you try to keep this feeling of narrow when it's impossible to do it like the reality? So it's all about get some idea, and I think as artists quite important to give a form to a feeling.
In our creative process, so many choices were us learning about the sort of abstract world that Counter-Strike makes. Like for me, as a computer game researcher, a lot of people talk about games are so realistic and that's quite scary. But if you start to make them, they're very not realistic. They're very strange. The space that they work with, the logic they use, it's not the world we live in. So we have to make all these very creative decisions to make these feelings feel the way they should, and to say not what is realistic from the data from the site, but what's realistic for the idea of what we're trying to do. So for example, with the sound design, we think, okay, it's not realistic for someone to sit at a computer and run through these tunnels. That is nothing compared to what was happening to a bunch of young men in 1942, in the middle of the night. Where's the realism? There's no connection, it's completely different. So we think, okay, we have to do something, we have to invent something completely new. So all of us really, but particularly Andrew and Alexis, research a lot of different ideas in sound and music. Alexi had already done a project on this theme in World War II in Taiwan, and Andrew did a lot of research, particularly local looking up interviews, looking up music from the period, even just sound recordings from Hong Kong from the period. And then we all talked about how we could use these in the tunnel to try to create some sort of memory of what this place actually was. But of course it's not realistic. There's no speakers in the tunnels in real life, but for the player we think, okay, well, sitting at your computer is not realistic either, so we'll make something new. And we make similar creative decisions with lights, because of course there are not lights in these things. That would be very dangerous. If somebody is trying to, if you're trying to hide, you don't have lights on. But if you have no lights in a computer game, it's just a black screen. So of course you have to think, okay, so we have to have lights, but there are no lights. So we come up with all sorts of different ideas to try to get the feel of what it should feel like, even though it's not true. So the creative process was very much that. It was, we had data which we could do our best to transform, but creatively we have to think of a lot of new solutions to try to create an artistic sense of realism, because the game itself is very, very abstract.
Try to do with this project, it's to give a form to historical research things, where you don't need to be a specialist of contemporary art, you don't need to be an academic, or you don't need to be a gamer to appreciate this work. We really hope it will work, to make a link between people maybe never go in contemporary art museum, or read so much book about historical events, or don't spend hours every day to train themselves on esports games. And we hope it could initiate some dialogue and some discussion around just what is this project specifically, and not in general what is video game or what is contemporary art or what is academic. Just like everybody could enjoy this production.
With this project, we really try to put it in the middle of people who are interested in computer games, or people who are interested in historical events, or people who come to art exhibitions. It really, we hope that these audiences, we know they're quite different, but we built this in such a way that it really doesn't matter which one you are, or if this is the first time you've had a look at any of these things. That for us, we made the game in such a way that if people are really interested in computer games, you can play it, just like Counter-Strike is played. But if you have never sat down to a 3D first-person game, it is very easy. We make it, the keyboards tell you what to do, and you just walk and you just explore and you listen to these sounds and you explore the site in a way that also it can't be explored anymore. A lot of these tunnels have collapsed, some of them are overgrown, so we try to offer something that we try to be generous and make this recreation that's not to do with games, it's to do with here is what is underneath the jungle, here is what is underneath the mud, these are these structures. The history is interesting and it's there, it's easy to explore. And then for art audiences, we also know that a lot of art audiences also don't play esports or Counter-Strike so much. So we try to use Counter-Strike in quite a different way that a regular game designer would use it, because we are not game designers, and we are also really not gamers. You know, we're not competitive Counter-Strike players. We just try to learn as much as we can about how people play, how levels are built, but then also we do things differently, but we try to understand why we did them differently so that we can have an interesting conversation with somebody who builds Counter-Strike levels, and we say, okay, well, we did this differently because it's not just for gamers, it's for people who want to come to an art show or people who want to walk through this old space. But hopefully we know enough about these different areas that we know why we made these decisions, and so we hope that different audiences can sort of enjoy some of the different sort of special things we put in.